Commander Lee Hyun-woo walked through the long metal hallway of the council station. His black uniform was perfect. His face showed no fear, but inside his heart was beating fast. Today was the day humans would finally get their answer. After 30 years of trying, Earth would learn if they could join the Galactic Cooperation Council. The council station was huge. It floated in space between 12 different star systems. Each system belonged to a different alien race. The station was built like a giant wheel with long arms reaching out in all directions. Ships from across the galaxy came here to trade and make deals. Hyun-woo had been to this station many times before. Each time he brought gifts from Earth. He brought music, art, and new ideas. He showed the aliens how humans could help make the galaxy better. But each time the aliens said the same thing. Not yet. Maybe next time. Dr. Park So-young walked beside him. She was Earth's best expert on alien life. She had studied every race in the council for 20 years. She knew their languages, their customs, and their fears. Her job was to help humans understand the aliens better. The vote will be close, she said quietly. 3 races are still not sure about us. Behind them walked Admiral Kim Tae-ho. He was in charge of Earth's small space navy. His ships were old and weak compared to alien technology. But his soldiers were brave and smart. They had fought space pirates and protected Earth's trade ships for many years. If they say no again, what happens to us? The Admiral asked. Hyun-woo did not answer. He knew what would happen. Earth would stay alone in space. Humans would be cut off from the rest of the galaxy. Their children would grow up knowing that the stars were forbidden to them. They reached the big doors of the council chamber. The doors were made of some kind of blue crystal that seemed to glow with its own light. Alien guards stood on both sides. These guards were tall and thin with gray skin. They wore no weapons, but their eyes could kill a human with one look. The doors opened without a sound. Inside, the chamber was dark except for 12 lights hanging from the ceiling. Under each light sat one of the council members. Each alien looked different. Some were tall, some were short. Some had fur, others had scales. But they all had one thing in common. They all looked at humans like they were insects. Councillor Vexitari sat directly in front of the human delegation. He belonged to the Helix Consortium, the most powerful race in the galaxy. His people controlled most of the trade routes and owned the biggest companies. Vexitari had 4 arms and skin that changed color when he talked. Right now his skin was dark red, which meant he was not happy. Commander Lee Hyun-woo of Earth, Vexitari said in perfect English. His voice sounded like metal scraping against stone. You come before us again asking for the same thing. You want your species to join our council. Yes, Counselor, Hyun-woo replied. Humans have shown that we can be trusted. We have shared our technology. We have helped fight pirates. We have kept our promises. Another council member spoke up. This one looked like a giant insect with 6 legs and wings that sparkled like diamonds. Your species is young and violent. You still have wars on your own planet. How can we trust you in space? Dr. Park So-young stepped forward. Earth has not had a major war in 50 years. We have united our planet under one government. Our people work together for the common good. But for how long? Asked a third alien. This one was covered in thick brown fur and had eyes like a cat. Your history shows that humans fight each other constantly. You are not ready for the responsibility of council membership. The debate went on for hours. Each council member had questions and complaints about humanity. They talked about human history, human nature, and human faults. They acted like they were perfect beings who had never made mistakes. Admiral Kim Tae-ho watched the aliens carefully. He had fought in many battles and he knew when someone was already decided about something. These aliens had made up their minds before the humans even arrived. Finally, Councillor Vexitari raised one of his 4 hands. The chamber became quiet. His skin turned from red to black, which meant he was about to deliver bad news. The Galactic Cooperation Council has made its decision, he said. Earth's application for membership is denied. The words hit Hyun-woo like a punch to the stomach, but he kept his face calm. He had been a soldier before becoming a diplomat. He knew how to hide his feelings. Furthermore, Vexitari continued, this council has decided that humanity poses a potential threat to galactic peace. Therefore, new restrictions will be placed on your species. Dr. Park So-young grabbed Hyun-woo's arm. This was worse than just being rejected. What restrictions? Hyun-woo asked. Vexitari's skin turned darker. Humans are forbidden from establishing colonies beyond your solar system. All human space activities must be reported to this council. Any violation of these rules will result in corrective action. Corrective action? Admiral Kim Tae-ho stepped forward. What does that mean? The insect-like alien answered. It means we will stop you. By force if necessary. The chamber filled with alien sounds that might have been laughter. The council members seemed to enjoy seeing the humans defeated. Hyun-woo felt anger rising in his chest, but he pushed it down. This decision is unfair, he said calmly. We have done nothing to deserve this treatment. You exist, Vextari replied. That is enough. Your species spreads too fast. You adapt too quickly. You are too unpredictable. These are dangerous traits in a galactic citizen. You fear us, Dr. Park So-young said suddenly. All eyes turned to her. You do not reject us because we are violent or untrustworthy. You reject us because you are afraid of what we might become. Several council members made angry noises. Vextari's skin turned bright orange, which meant he was furious. We fear nothing, he said. We simply choose to protect the galaxy from a species that has not yet learned its place. And what place is that? Admiral Kim Tae-ho asked. Under our control, Vextari answered without shame. Where you belong. The meeting was over. The human delegation was escorted out of the chamber by the gray-skinned guards. They walked back through the long hallways in silence. Other aliens they passed looked at them with mixture of pity and disgust. When they reached their ship, Dr. Park So-young finally spoke. I was right. They are afraid of us. My analysis of their communications shows they have been planning this for years. Planning what? Hyun-woo asked. To keep us trapped in our own solar system forever. They see us as a future threat to their power. Admiral Kim Tae-ho looked out at the stars through the ship's window. Maybe they are right to be afraid. As their ship left the council station and headed back toward Earth, Hyun-woo thought about what would happen next. He would have to tell the people of Earth that their dreams of joining the galactic community were over. He would have to explain that aliens saw humans as dangerous animals that needed to be caged. But something else was growing in his mind. If the aliens wanted to treat humans like a threat, maybe it was time to become one. If they would not accept Earth as an equal, perhaps Earth would have to become their superior. The long journey home gave him time to plan. By the time they reached Earth, Commander Lee Hyun-woo had decided that humanity's real journey was just beginning. 5 years had passed since the Council rejected humanity. 5 years of secret work that would change everything. Engineer Choi Min-ho stood in the command center of New Seoul Station, humanity's first hidden colony. Through the giant windows, he could see dozens of ships being built in the orbital shipyards. These were not the small, weak ships that Earth used to make. These were something completely new. Status report, Min-ho said to his team. Shipyard 7 has completed another stealth frigate, replied his assistant. That makes 25 ships this month. Min-ho smiled. When the Council had rejected Earth, they thought they were keeping humans trapped in their home system. They were wrong. Human engineers had spent 5 years studying every piece of alien technology they could find. They had learned how to make it better. The new human ships were faster than anything the Council had ever seen. They could hide from alien sensors completely. Their weapons could cut through alien armor like paper. Most importantly, they were built by humans who had something the aliens did not have. Anger. Captain Yoon Ji-hai walked into the command center. She had just returned from establishing another secret colony. Her uniform was dusty from walking on an alien world, but her eyes were bright with success. Site 12 is ready, she reported. We now have mining operations on 15 worlds. The aliens have no idea we exist. This was the genius of humanity's plan. Instead of trying to fight the Council directly, humans had simply disappeared. They used stolen alien maps to find empty star systems far from Council space. They built their colonies in places the aliens never bothered to look. Each colony was different. Some were mining worlds that dug rare metals from asteroid belts. Others were factory worlds that built ships and weapons. A few were farm worlds that grew food for the growing human population in space. But the most important colonies were the fortress worlds. These were planets covered with weapons and shields. They were placed at key points along space routes. If the Council ever found out about humanity's expansion, these worlds would stop any alien attack. Director Kang Dong-jun entered the command center carrying a data pad full of secret information. He was in charge of humanity's intelligence network. His spies had infiltrated alien governments, companies, and military forces across the galaxy. The Council is getting worried, he said. Several alien species have reported strange ships in their space. Ships that disappear before they can be identified. Good, Captain Ji-hai said. Let them wonder. Fear makes people make mistakes, Dongjun nodded. My agents have also discovered something interesting. The Council races do not trust each other as much as they pretend. The Helix Consortium has been cheating their partners for years. If we play this right, we can turn them against each other. This was another human advantage. The aliens in the Council worked together only because they had to. They did not really like or trust each other. Humans, on the other hand, had learned to work as one people. Earth's government had united every nation under a single banner. Human colonies were run by the best people, not by whoever had the most money or the biggest weapons. Minho pulled up a holographic display showing the current status of all human colonies. Red dots showed mining worlds. Blue dots showed factory worlds. Green dots showed farm worlds. Yellow dots showed fortress worlds. There were now over 40 dots scattered across a region of space larger than the entire Council territory. How long before we are ready? Ji-hai asked. Another year, Minho replied. Maybe 2. We need more ships and more people in space. But the foundations are strong. When the time comes, we will be ready. Meanwhile, Dr. Han Ye-jin was working in her laboratory on a different kind of preparation. She was humanity's best weapons designer. Her job was to create tools that could defeat alien technology. The problem with alien weapons was that they were designed to fight other aliens. Each race had developed their technology to counter their enemy's strengths, but none of them had ever fought humans before. Dr. Han had studied alien weaknesses for 5 years. The Helix Consortium ships were fast but had weak armor. The insect-like Klaxon race had strong weapons but poor shields. The cat-like Farron species were good at long-range fighting but terrible up close. Her new weapons were designed to exploit every weakness. Human missiles that could change direction in flight to confuse alien computers. Energy beams that could shift frequency to penetrate different types of shields. Armor that could adapt to whatever hit it. But her greatest creation was something the aliens could never copy. Human tactics. She had developed new ways of fighting that used humanity's greatest strengths. Teamwork, flexibility, the ability to think fast and change plans in the middle of a battle. Back on Earth, people went about their normal lives. They worked their jobs, raised their families, and enjoyed their peaceful world. But they also knew that their future lay among the stars. Every child learned about the great human colonies being built in secret. Every adult contributed to the war effort in some way. Some people donated money to build ships. Others volunteered to move to the colonies. Scientists shared their research. Soldiers trained for the day when humanity would reveal itself to the galaxy. The most important contribution came from the storytellers. Writers, musicians, and artists created works that reminded humans why they were fighting. They told stories of human courage and determination. They sang songs about the day when Earth's children would be free to explore any world they chose. These stories spread throughout the human colonies. They reminded colonists that they were not just building mining stations or weapons factories. They were building humanity's future. Admiral Kim Tae-ho visited each colony regularly. He inspected the defenses and talked to the colonists. He made sure that every human in space understood their role in the plan. We are not conquerors, he would tell them. We are liberators. We will free not just ourselves, but every species that has been held down by the Council's fear and control. The Admiral's words were not empty promises. Human intelligence had discovered that many alien species were unhappy with Council rule. The Council gave all the best trade deals to their favorite races. They ignored the problems of smaller, weaker species. They made laws that helped the rich and powerful while hurting everyone else. These unhappy species would be humanity's allies when the time came. Director Dong Jun's agents were already making contact with rebel groups on alien worlds. They shared human technology and ideas. They planted seeds of revolution that would grow when humanity finally revealed itself. As the 5th year ended, Captain Ji-hai stood on the bridge of humanity's newest ship. It was called the Liberator, and it was the most advanced vessel ever built. It carried weapons that could destroy an entire alien fleet. It had shields that could stop any known weapon. Most importantly, it was crewed by humans who believed in their cause. Status of all colonies? She asked her communications officer. All green, Captain. 43 colonies reporting ready status. Total population, 2 million humans in space. Fleet strength over 300 ships. Jihi smiled. 5 years ago, humans had been banned from leaving their solar system. Now they had an empire larger and more advanced than anything the Council could imagine. But the best part was still to come. The aliens still thought humans were trapped on their homeworld. They had no idea that their former victims had become their future masters. Engineer Minho received the final report on humanity's industrial capacity. Human factories could now build ships faster than the Council races combined. Human mines were producing more rare materials than alien corporations. Human farms were feeding a population that was growing every day. Dr. Han Yejin completed her final weapon designs. Human military technology was now at least 50 years ahead of anything the aliens had. More importantly, human tactics and strategy were completely unknown to their future enemies. Director Dong Jun's network of spies had mapped every alien military base, government building, and industrial center. When the war began, humans would know exactly where to strike for maximum effect. The foundation was complete. Humanity had spent 5 years in secret, building an empire that spanned hundreds of star systems. They had created an economy that could support any length of war. They had developed weapons that could defeat any alien technology. Most importantly, they had united their people behind a single goal, showing the galaxy that humans were not the dangerous savages the Council claimed they were. They were something far more dangerous. They were the future rulers of the galaxy. As reports came in from the latest colony missions, one thing became clear. Humanity was no longer the weak species that had begged for acceptance 5 years ago. They had become something the aliens had never imagined possible. They had become unstoppable. The alarm sounded through the Helix Consortium patrol ship like a scream in the darkness. Captain Zexra rushed to the bridge, his forearms moving quickly to check the controls. His skin had turned pale yellow, the color his people showed when they were confused and afraid. "Report," he ordered his crew. "Unknown ships detected at Grid 77 Alpha," his sensor officer replied. "They appeared out of nowhere, sir. Our scanners show nothing, but we can see them with our eyes." Zexra looked at the main screen. 3 ships hung in space about 10 miles away. They were sleek and black, with lines that seemed to flow like water. He had never seen anything like them before. "Have you tried to contact them?" he asked. "Yes, sir." No response. "They are just sitting there watching us." This was supposed to be empty space. The star charts showed nothing but asteroids and cosmic dust in this system. No planets worth visiting, no resources worth mining, no reason for anyone to be here. "Run a deep scan on those ships," Zexra ordered. "I want to know who built them." The sensor officer worked at his controls for several minutes. Then he looked up with confusion written across his face. "Sir, the computers cannot identify the technology. These ships use materials and energy patterns that do not match any known species." Zexra felt a chill run through his body. In his 20 years of patrol duty, he had encountered ships from every race in the galaxy. Pirates, traders, explorers, and military vessels from dozens of different species. But these ships were completely unknown. "Try a friendly greeting protocol," he decided. "Maybe they are from a new species that wants to make contact." Before his communications officer could respond, the 3 unknown ships suddenly moved. They did not accelerate slowly like normal ships. They simply went from stop to full speed in an instant. Within seconds, they had surrounded the patrol ship. "Impossible," whispered the navigation officer. "Nothing can move that fast." The largest of the unknown ships positioned itself directly in front of them. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a voice came through their communications system. It spoke in perfect Helix language, but there was something strange about it. Something that made Zexra's skin turn dark blue with fear. "Helix vessel, this is Fleet Admiral Baesu Jin of the Terran Dominion. You are trespassing in human space." The bridge fell silent. Every crew member stared at each other in shock. Humans? But humans were trapped in their home system. The Council had made sure of that years ago. "This is Captain Zexra of the Helix Consortium," he replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "You must be mistaken. Humans are not allowed outside their solar system. We have Council authority to patrol this region." The response came immediately. "Your Council authority means nothing here. This system belongs to humanity now. You have 1 minute to leave or we will remove you." Zexra's communications officer was frantically trying to send a message back to Helix Command. But something was wrong. Their long-range transmitters were not working. "Sir, they are jamming our communications," the officer reported. I cannot contact headquarters. The human voice spoke again. 50 seconds. Zexra made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. Instead of leaving as the humans demanded, he gave the order to attack. All weapons fire! The patrol ship's energy beam struck the human vessels with enough force to destroy a small moon. For a moment, brilliant light filled the space between the ships. When it faded, Zexra expected to see debris floating where the human ships had been. Instead, the 3 black ships hung in space exactly where they had been before. Completely undamaged. Impossible, Zexra whispered. The human admiral's voice came through their speakers one last time. Time's up. What happened next would be reported to Council headquarters as the most shocking military defeat in galactic history. The 3 human ships did not use energy beams or missiles. Instead, they fired weapons that seemed to tear reality itself apart. Space around the patrol ship twisted and bent. The Helix vessel's shields collapsed like paper. Its armor melted like ice in a fire. In less than 30 seconds, the patrol ship was completely disabled. Its engines were dead. Its weapons were destroyed. Its crew was trapped inside a hull that was falling apart around them, but the humans did not finish them off. Instead, Admiral Bei Su-jin's voice came through their damaged communications one final time. Return to your council and tell them this. Humanity has returned to the stars. We claim this galaxy by right of strength and superiority. Any species that opposes us will share your fate. Any species that joins us will share in our victory. The 3 human ships vanished as suddenly as they had appeared, leaving the crippled Helix patrol ship floating alone in space. It took 6 hours for a rescue ship to find them. When Captain Zexra's report reached the council station, it caused panic among the alien leaders. Emergency meetings were called. Military advisors were summoned. Intelligence agents were sent to confirm the impossible news. Councillor Vexitari read the report 3 times before he could believe it. The humans they had dismissed as primitive and violent had somehow escaped their solar system. They had built ships that could defeat Helix military technology with ease. They were claiming territory in space that belonged to the Council. Dr. Park, so young, sat in the observation deck of the human command ship Earth's Pride. She watched through the giant windows as a fleet of alien vessels approached their position. These were not patrol ships like the one they had defeated earlier. These were full military vessels sent by the Council to show humanity its place. How many ships? She asked Admiral Kim Taeho, who stood beside her. 47, he replied. The largest fleet the Council has ever assembled. They want to make sure we understand who is in charge, so. Young smiled. They still do not understand. We are not the same species they rejected 7 years ago. The alien fleet was impressive by old standards. Each ship was larger than anything humans used to build. Their weapons could destroy planets. Their shields had never been penetrated by any known technology. But Dr. Han Yejin's weapons were not known technology. They were something completely new. Fleet Admiral Bei Su-jin stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching the alien fleet approach. Around her, human officers worked quietly at their stations. There was no panic, no fear. Only the calm confidence of people who knew they were about to win. Admiral, the alien fleet is requesting our surrender, her communications officer reported. Tell them we accept their surrender, she replied. Ma'am, you heard me. Tell them that if they surrender now, we will treat them with honor. If they choose to fight, we will treat them as enemies. The alien response was immediate and predictable. Energy beams and missiles filled the space between the 2 fleets. The Council forces had opened fire with everything they had. Admiral Bei watched calmly as the alien weapons struck her ships. The human vessels absorbed the attacks like they were gentle rain. Their shields, based on technology the aliens had never imagined, turned the enemy fire into harmless light. Return fire, she ordered. What followed was not a battle. It was a demonstration. Human weapons cut through alien defenses like they did not exist. Ships that had never been damaged in 100 battles were torn apart in seconds. The most advanced military technology in the galaxy became space junk. In 15 minutes, the entire Council fleet was either destroyed or disabled. Not a single human ship had taken serious damage. As the smoke cleared, Admiral Bei opened communications with the few alien ships that were still functional. This is Fleet Admiral Bei Su-jin of the Terran Dominion. I am transmitting the terms of your surrender to the Council headquarters. Read them carefully. On Council Station, the alien leaders gathered in emergency session. The terms that Admiral Bay had sent were simple and shocking. The Galactic Cooperation Council would dissolve itself within 30 days. All member species would become part of the new Terran Dominion. Human governors would be appointed to oversee the transition. Any species that resisted would be conquered by force. Councillor Vextari's skin had turned completely black, the color his people showed in the presence of death. "This is impossible," he said. 7 years ago they were begging us to let them join our council. How did they become so powerful? Ambassador Seo Wu-jin walked into the council chamber without being announced. The alien guards had tried to stop him, but somehow they could not move when he approached. He wore a simple human diplomatic uniform, but there was something about him that made even the most powerful aliens step aside. "Counselors," he said in a voice that carried to every corner of the chamber, "I bring greetings from the Terran Dominion and an offer of partnership." "Partnership?" Vextari sputtered. "You just destroyed our fleet." "We defended ourselves against an unprovoked attack," Wu-jin replied calmly. "Just as we have defended ourselves against your attempts to keep us trapped in our home system." Another council member, the insect-like representative of the Klaxon hive, spoke up. How did you become so powerful so quickly?" Wu-jin smiled. "You taught us. When you rejected our application for council membership, you forced us to become something greater than just another member species. You forced us to become your replacements. We offer you the same choice we offered your patrol ship," he continued. "Join us willingly and help us build something better than your corrupt council." Governor Lim Jae-wook stood on the balcony of his office looking out over the city of New Hope. 6 months ago, this world had been called Klaxon Prime, capital of the insect-like Klaxon species. It had been a dark, polluted place where millions of workers lived in poverty, while their leaders grew rich. Today, the city sparkled in the sunlight. Clean air flowed through wide streets. New buildings rose toward the sky, built with human technology and Klaxon labor working together. Children of both species played in parks that had been built where old factories once poisoned the ground. "The productivity reports are in," said his assistant, a young Klaxon female named Kliktar. She had learned to speak human languages and served as a bridge between the two species. "Food production is up 40% from last year. Manufacturing has doubled. Most importantly, happiness surveys show 90% satisfaction among the population." Jae-wook smiled. This was why humanity was winning the galaxy. They did not conquer worlds to steal their resources or enslave their people. They liberated worlds to make them better. The old Klaxon government had treated their own people like machines. Workers lived in tiny rooms and ate processed food that barely kept them alive. They worked 16 hours a day in dangerous factories. They were forbidden to learn how to read or write. Their only purpose was to make products for the Council's elite. When human forces arrived at Klaxon Prime, they expected a battle. Instead, they found millions of Klaxon workers celebrating in the streets. The old government had already fled, taking their wealth with them. The people welcomed humans as the liberators they were. General Nam Ki-tae walked through the shipyards of what used to be Helix territory. 3 months ago, this had been the most heavily defended industrial center in the galaxy. Thousands of alien workers had labored to build warships for the Council's military. Now humans and aliens worked side by side, building exploration ships and peaceful transport vessels. The weapons factories had been converted to produce medical equipment and farming tools. The slave quarters had been torn down and replaced with comfortable homes. "Any problems with integration?" he asked his aide, a former Helix officer named Vortan. "None, sir," Vortan replied. "My people are grateful for the chance to build something useful instead of tools of war. Morale is the highest it has ever been." This was the pattern across the galaxy. As human forces moved from system to system, they found the same thing everywhere. The common people were tired of council rule. They were ready for something better. The council had made the mistake of ruling through fear and oppression. They kept different species separated and suspicious of each other. They gave the best jobs and resources to their favored races while leaving others to struggle. Humans offered something different. They judged people by their abilities and character, not by what species they belonged to. They shared technology freely. They built schools and hospitals on every world they liberated. Admiral Ryu Haiwan commanded the largest human fleet ever assembled. 200 ships moved through space toward the core systems of the galaxy. But this was not an invasion fleet. It was a liberation fleet. "Admiral, we are receiving surrender requests from 6 more star systems," her communications officer reported. "They want to join the Dominion without fighting." "Granted," Haywan replied. "Send governor assignment teams to each system. Make sure they understand our policies on species integration and economic development." This was becoming normal. As word spread about how humans treated conquered worlds, more and more species chose surrender over resistance. Why fight against people who would make your life better? The few species that did choose to fight learned quickly why resistance was futile. Human military technology remained far superior to anything the old council races possessed. But more importantly, human soldiers fought with a purpose that alien armies could not match. Human forces knew they were fighting to free oppressed people and build a better galaxy. Alien forces knew they were fighting to maintain a corrupt system that benefited only a few wealthy elites. Dr. Park So-young worked in her new laboratory on Terra Nova, humanity's first major colony world. She was developing integration programs that would help different species work together as equals. Her research had discovered something amazing about galactic civilization. "The diversity is incredible," she told her research team. "Each species has unique abilities and perspectives that complement the others. The Council wasted all this potential by keeping everyone separated." Her integration centers were being built on every liberated world. Humans learned alien languages and customs. Aliens learned human technology and philosophy. Children of different species attended the same schools and became friends. The results were already showing. Mixed research teams were making scientific breakthroughs that no single species could have achieved alone. Trade between worlds was booming as different species shared their resources and expertise. Art, music, and literature were flourishing as cultures mixed and influenced each other. Minister Jong Soo-ho arrived at the independent world of Sanctuary with a small diplomatic fleet. This was one of the few remaining worlds that had never joined the Council and had not yet decided about the Dominion. The planet's leaders met him in their capital city. They were a proud ancient species called the Drakmor, who valued independence above everything else. "Minister Jong," their leader said, "we have watched your expansion across the galaxy. We admit that your methods are impressive, but we value our freedom. Why should we join your dominion instead of remaining independent?" Suho had expected this question. He activated a holographic display showing economic and social data from recently liberated worlds. "Because independence without strength is just isolation," he replied. "Look at these numbers. Worlds that join the Dominion see immediate improvements in health, education, and prosperity. Their people live longer, happier lives. Their children have opportunities that never existed before. And in exchange, we give up our sovereignty? You gain it," Suho corrected. Under Council rule, smaller species had no real voice in galactic affairs. The big powers made all the decisions. In the Dominion, every species has representation based on their population and contribution. Your people would help shape the future of the galaxy. The Drakmor leaders discussed among themselves for several hours. Finally, their speaker returned to Suho with their decision. "We accept your offer, but we have conditions. Name them. Our people must be allowed to maintain our traditional government on Sanctuary. Our military forces must be integrated into your fleet as equal partners, not subordinates. And our representatives in your government must have real power to influence decisions." Suho smiled. "Granted on all counts. Welcome to the Terran Dominion." This scene was repeated across the galaxy as the last independent worlds chose to join humanity rather than face an uncertain future alone. The benefits of Dominion membership were simply too good to refuse. Back on Terra Prime, humanity's new capital world, Commander Lee Hyun-woo read the daily reports with satisfaction. The man who had once begged the Council for membership now governed an empire that spanned thousands of worlds and dozens of species. "Status report," he asked his aide. "Sir, we now control 86% of the galaxy's inhabited systems. Of the remaining 14%, 12% have requested to join us peacefully. Only 2% are still actively resisting." Hyun-woo nodded. "And what about the old Council leadership?" "Most have fled to the Outer Rim territories. A few have requested amnesty in exchange for cooperation. Councillor Vextari wants to meet with you personally." "Grant the meeting," Hyun-woo decided. "It's time to close this chapter of galactic history." The meeting took place in the same chamber where the council had once rejected humanity's application for membership. But now human banners hung from the walls, and human guards stood at the doors. Vextari entered the chamber looking very different from the proud alien who had once delivered humanity's rejection. His forearms shook with age and fear. His skin was pale gray, the color his people showed when they were defeated. "Commander Lee," he said in a quiet voice, "I come to offer my species unconditional surrender." "I prefer the title Governor General now," Hyunwoo replied calmly. "And your surrender is unnecessary. We are not conquerors seeking to punish our enemies. We are liberators building a better future for everyone. Even for those who wronged you." Hyunwoo stood and walked to the window, looking out at the busy spaceport where ships from dozens of species came and went peacefully. "Especially for those who wronged us," he said. "That is what makes us different from the Council. We judge beings by what they can contribute to the future, not by what they did in the past." Vextari's skin began to show streaks of blue, the color his people displayed when they felt hope. "What would you have us do?" he asked. "Use your knowledge of galactic trade routes to help us improve commerce between worlds. Your species has always been excellent at organization and logistics. Help us build supply networks that serve everyone instead of just the wealthy." As Vextari left the chamber to begin his new role in the Dominion, Hyunwoo reflected on how much had changed. 7 years ago, he had walked out of this same room humiliated and rejected. Today, he ruled the galaxy not through conquest. 20 years had passed since the Council's rejection of humanity. Emperor Lee Hyunwoo stood in the Great Hall of Terra Prime, watching delegates from over 300 species gather for the anniversary celebration. The man who had once walked away from the Council in defeat now ruled the greatest empire the galaxy had ever known. "Your Majesty," said Chancellor Park So-young, approaching with a datapad in her hands, "the final integration reports are complete. We now have peaceful governance on 4,736 worlds. Crime rates are at historic lows. Education levels have increased by 800% over pre-Dominion levels." Hyunwoo smiled as he watched a group of young beings from different species working together on a science project. Human children played alongside Klaxon youngsters, Helix adolescents, and dozens of other species. They spoke a mixture of languages and seemed completely unaware that their grandparents had once been enemies. "And the exploration fleets?" he asked. Grand Admiral Kim Tae-ho reports successful contact with 17 new species beyond the old galactic borders. All have requested immediate Dominion membership after seeing what we have accomplished here. This was the greatest achievement of the Terran Dominion. They had not just conquered the galaxy, they had made it a place where any being could thrive regardless of what species they belonged to. The old barriers between races had crumbled, replaced by a civilization based on cooperation and mutual respect. Minister Jong Soo-ho walked through the bustling streets of Unity City, the capital of Terra Prime. Beings from across the galaxy lived and worked together here. Street vendors sold food from 100 different worlds. Artists displayed works that blended the aesthetic traditions of dozens of cultures. Children attended schools where they learned the history and achievements of every member species. "Minister," called out a voice in accented human language. Suho turned to see Counselor Vexitari approaching. The old alien looked healthier and happier than he had in decades. His skin showed the bright blue color that indicated contentment and purpose. "Counselor," Suho replied warmly, "how are the new trade agreements progressing?" "Excellently. We have reduced shipping costs between the core worlds by 30%. More importantly, we have eliminated the preferential treatment that used to favor wealthy species over poor ones. Every world now has equal access to galactic markets." This was typical of the changes that had swept through the galaxy under human leadership. The old council had maintained power through a system of favorites and victims. They gave the best trade deals to their allies while punishing their enemies with high taxes and restricted access to resources. The Dominion treated all member species equally. A farmer on a remote agricultural world received the same support and opportunities as a factory owner on an industrial planet. Merit and hard work were rewarded regardless of species or birthplace. Director Lee Ma-young reviewed the latest scientific reports in her laboratory complex on New Geneva. As head of the Dominion's research programs, she oversaw the greatest scientific expansion in galactic history. The results continued to exceed expectations, she told her mixed species research team. Joint projects between different species are producing breakthroughs at 10 times the rate of single-species research. This was another area where human leadership had revolutionized galactic civilization. Under the Council, scientific research had been fragmented and competitive. Each species guarded their discoveries jealously, sharing knowledge only when forced to by political necessity. The Dominion encouraged open collaboration between species. Human curiosity combined with Klaxon efficiency, Helix creativity, and the unique perspectives of dozens of other races had led to incredible advances in medicine, technology, and space exploration. New treatments had eliminated diseases that had plagued certain species for centuries. Clean energy sources had replaced the polluting industries that had damaged many worlds. Faster-than-light travel had become so efficient that beings could visit family on distant worlds as easily as traveling to a nearby city. Grand Admiral Kim Tae-ho stood on the bridge of the exploration ship, New Horizon, looking at a star map that showed the ever-expanding borders of human influence. What had started as a few secret colonies was now an empire that covered most of the known galaxy and was rapidly expanding into unexplored regions. Admiral, we are receiving communications from the newly contacted sphere species, his communications officer reported. They want to send a delegation to Terra Prime to formalize their membership application. Approved, Kim replied. Prepare an escort fleet to guide them through Dominion space safely. This had become routine. As human exploration fleets encountered new species, word quickly spread about the benefits of Dominion membership. Most chose to join immediately rather than remain isolated in an increasingly connected galaxy. But joining the Dominion was not about giving up independence. Each species maintained their own culture, government, and traditions. They simply agreed to follow certain basic principles: no slavery, no oppression of other species, no aggressive war, and cooperation in matters that affected everyone. In exchange, they received protection from external threats, access to advanced technology, free trade with thousands of worlds, and a voice in galactic governance proportional to their population and contributions. Back on Terra Prime, the anniversary celebration was reaching its climax. Emperor Hyunwoo prepared to address the assembled delegates, but first he wanted to hear from someone special. Former Counselor Vextari stepped up to the podium. The alien who had once arrogantly rejected humanity's membership application now served as one of their most trusted advisors. His skin showed the deep golden color that his people displayed when speaking absolute truth. My fellow beings, he began, his voice carrying clearly through the Great Hall. 20 years ago, I made the greatest mistake in galactic history. I rejected humanity's application to join our council because I believed they were too dangerous, too unpredictable, too ambitious. The hall fell silent. Beings from across the galaxy listened to words that had become legendary. I was right about one thing, Vextari continued. Humans were too dangerous for our corrupt system to contain. They were too unpredictable for our rigid hierarchy to control. They were too ambitious to accept the limitations we tried to place on them. But I was wrong about what that meant. I thought their danger would destroy our civilization. Instead, their strength has rebuilt it into something infinitely better. I thought their unpredictability would bring chaos. Instead, their flexibility has brought prosperity to worlds that had known only poverty. I thought their ambition would threaten us all. Instead, their vision has lifted us all to heights we never imagined possible. The hall erupted in applause from hundreds of different species. Vextari waited for quiet before delivering his final words. The Council feared humanity because we saw them as a threat to our power. We never imagined they would use that power to serve others instead of ruling them. We told them they were too aggressive to join our club. We were right. They were too noble to settle for membership when they could create leadership. As Vextari stepped down, Emperor Hyunwoo took his place at the podium. He looked out at the diverse crowd of beings who had chosen to follow humanity's vision of a better galaxy. Citizens of the Terran Dominion, he began, today we celebrate not just the 20th anniversary of our empire, but the birth of a truly galactic civilization. When the Council rejected us, they believed they were protecting their established order. They saw us as dangerous primitives who would disrupt their carefully controlled system. They were absolutely correct. Laughter rippled through the audience. We have disrupted their system of oppression and replaced it with opportunity. We have disrupted their culture of fear and replaced it with friendship. We have disrupted their economy of exploitation and replaced it with prosperity for all. But our greatest disruption has been to prove that different species can work together as equals. For too long, this galaxy was divided by fear and prejudice. Species fought each other over resources and territory. The strong bullied the weak. The wealthy ignored the poor. Today, a Klaxon child can grow up to become a human ship captain. A Helix entrepreneur can start a business that employs workers from 20 different species. A human family can adopt orphans from across the galaxy and raise them as their own children. This is the empire we have built together. Not an empire of conquest, but an empire of cooperation. Not an empire of fear, but an empire of hope. Not an empire that serves the few, but an empire that lifts up everyone. The Emperor paused and looked directly at the viewing cameras that were broadcasting his speech to every world in the Dominion. To those species who have not yet joined us, I say this: our doors remain open. We judge beings not by their past mistakes, but by their willingness to help build a better future. There is a place for everyone in the galaxy we are creating. To those who still oppose us, I say this: we do not seek your destruction. We seek your transformation. Join us willingly, and help us build something greater than any of us could achieve alone. And to my fellow humans, I say this: we were told we were too dangerous to be trusted with membership in their council.